You probably think of your snow and landscape equipment and vehicles as assets. But what about your people? If you want to increase your employee retention and recruiting results, check out today's conversation with Nick Klotz on how to solve your labor shortage by fixing your company culture, where he shares actionable tactics and ideas that he's personally implemented to achieve over 90% employee retention at his snow and landscape company. Nick shares tips on how to create an employee education budget, the value of team building events, and how to promote bad fit employees to join other companies. Hey everyone, Jack Jostes here. Welcome to the Landscaper's Guide, where we share sales, marketing, and leadership tips to help you grow your snow and landscape company. And today's topic is all about employees and culture. And part of culture includes eating beef jerky. At least at Ramblin' Jackson, we have a beef jerky club where we promise to be on time and prepared to add value to all of our meetings. So we're a very punctual company, and we want to show you how punctual we are and how good the beef jerky is by sending you some in the mail. So claim your Landscapers Marketing Toolbox at landscapersguide.com/toolbox. See our show notes to click on a link, and I'll send you some beef jerky and a cool marketing field guide that'll help you figure out which marketing you should focus on first. And with that, let's get into today's interview with Nick Klotz. All right, everyone, welcome back to the Landscaper's Guide. Today, I'm excited to interview Nick Klotz, the president of EPM Professional Ground Services, a multi-million-dollar snow and landscape company in Michigan. Nick is also a business coach on the topic of employee culture. And in fact, I met Nick at the 2023 SIMA Symposium, where he was presenting today's topic, Fix Your Labor Shortage by Correcting Your Culture. So Nick, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to see you again. We had a great chat at SIMO back in, was it June or July, over a drink. So it's great to connect again.
Absolutely. So Nick, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your company, a little bit about your background.
So I am bred into small business. Both of my parents have had small businesses as long as I can remember. Kind of fell into grounds care. My mom worked for a company, ended up acquiring that company in grounds care, lawn maintenance, snow removal. Worked that up through high school. Parted ways over a difference of trajectory for the business. Got into a different line of work for about 3 years, hated every minute, and dove right back into snow and landscape maintenance. So
What is it that brought
that
you back? What do you like about the work?
being outside, seeing a finished product, just the overall challenge of it.
Hmm.
I enjoyed being, the leader of a company. Kind of jump back into that at a very small scale compared to what it was before, but just miss being outside and having some freedom in my schedule, which really isn't the case when you start a business from what I thought. But mainly the outdoor portion of it.
So I'm curious. So how long have you had this company?
So EPM was founded in November of 2010. So we're on 12, 13 years, something like that now.
And when we talked, you told me that you're only working like 20 to 25 hours a week. Is that true?
It fluctuates. On average, I'm probably in office 2 to 3 days a week. I have my phone on me. I work 20 to 25 hours a week. As a small business owner, I am always available to my team, and they know that. And I think that's why I'm afforded
Hmm.
the ability to be out of the office as much as I am, because they know I've got their back when needed.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious. So if you've reached this level of running your company where you're only able to work 20, 25 hours a week and you have a team, are you still doing things that you enjoy in the business, like being outside and the things that you're kind of telling me that brought you back to it? Like
So
what's that like at this phase of business?
that's the comical portion. Is I guess I missed saying this prior. I got back into this line of work because I hated staring at a computer screen and doing numbers, and now my main focus in the business is staring at a computer screen and doing numbers. I have like two of our clients are still hands-on clients for me. The bulk of my time is, supporting our team, helping our team grow, culture events, drive our culture forward. But then, looking at the financial aspect of the business is probably my primary focus at this point.
Well, so what do you enjoy about that now that you're kind of in that seat?
So if you would have asked my high school math teacher if I was a numbers guy, he probably would have laughed and fell out of his chair crying. Turns out I'm a numbers guy when it comes to P&Ls and any report that has to do with financials of a business. Absolutely love that portion of it. Now, trigonometry and algebra in high school, hated every second of it. So just the challenge is seeing the working pieces and how things fit and where they go in a P&L and how to make improvements in months to come.
I think that the difference is when you're working with your own numbers and there's like an actual reward at the end of doing it, right? Like a
Yes.
financial reward, like it suddenly makes more sense.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if you've screwed it up and had, net loss or realized like, wow, I wasted thousands of dollars or worse on something, you kind of figure it out. So that's at least been my experience with math. I now know all my numbers really well and I can access them pretty quickly. But when I started my company, I didn't.
Yeah.
And I used to think I'm not a math guy. I'm not good at this. But then I learned it and now I enjoy it too. So many of the people listening are having some sort of challenge with either employee recruiting or employee retention, or maybe both, in the snow and landscape industry in particular. So tell us, like, at a high level, what is your talk, fix your labor shortage by correcting your culture? What does that mean? And what are some tangible, like, real life business results of this idea?
So, I mean, the real life result of it, we average probably about a 95% retention rate right now. We
Hmm.
don't have the industry turnover that most do. And, I attribute that to our culture because we've done such hard work and had such dedication to making this such a positive and helpful and
Hmm.
great place to work. And it's by no doubt not all me. I mean, it is. I can put the bulk of that on the shoulders of my team and my managers and the rest of the team that makes us make leaps and bounds forwards every
Hmm.
year. The largest thing I guess I would attribute to a positive culture, at least for a business owner or manager, is that we have line items in, we just referenced P&Ls. We have line items in our P&Ls and our budgets for, say a 3/4 ton Chevy pickup. You have a budget for maintenance on that piece of equipment every year, your asset. What are you doing to maintain your greatest asset, which would be your team members? Is there a budgeted line item to move them forward every year? We do. We have that a figure in our head that what we plan to spend per head per team member. But when you look at most businesses in many different industries, they view their assets as the piece of equipment, the tax write off at the end of the year. Well, without your greatest asset, which is your team, all of that equipment doesn't move. And if you don't treat them and build them as your greatest asset, it's not going to move efficiently or move well.
I agree. And I love hearing you say that. And I also think you're one of the first people that I've heard assign a specific budget to it. Have you ever thought about, looking at your people as an asset and assigning a financial value to it like you would your fleet of vehicles?
Oh, we do. So actually, and I'd never heard anyone else that had did this before my talk at SIMA. And I actually asked that question, and I had a guy raise his hand, and I looked at him. I said, "We need to be friends." So our dollar value that we have per head it fluctuates a little. We have a little bit of gray area in it, but it's like $800 to $1,200 per head per team member that we budget not just for growth for education. Education we look at as a whole different avenue, but this is just for fun events to build the team. For instance, we've done bowling's an easy one. I mean, everybody can go bowling, but we've done Detroit Tigers games. We have done scavenger hunts, just something outside the box.
So I recently had a retreat where my company, we're
I
all
saw that.
remote.
That looked great.
Thank you. It was great. It was awesome because we all work remotely. And just like you and I are having this great conversation over Zoom right now, we're getting really good work done and our retention rate is very strong and our client retention, all the numbers are good. And there's something about being in person
Yes.
that it was just great to do that. I don't know that I could assign a dollar value to it. I've thought about it. Um, I got texts though from people that they were really excited to be back to work and they've never been excited to do that. I also will tell you, and there are people who maybe are listening, but I have some content on my social media about recruiting and hosting these events like pig roasts or we play the stump game. And I get so much trash talk from people like, oh, this is BS. You just need to pay people more and nobody cares about
It's
bowling or barbecues. And why don't you just pay people well? And I'm always like, look, yeah, obviously you got to pay people really well. Like it doesn't, I think sometimes people think that, like, I don't know, bowling isn't that expensive, right?
that's our chip shot event that we do every year. I mean, it is the cheapest event we do. We actually use bowling annually, and the way we do our events is we usually try to have 3 to 4 per year, minimum 1 to 2 with the entire family invited, 1 to 2 with just the team member and their significant other or spouse.
So
Um,
is it worth it? I mean, is it
oh
like,
yes, oh yes, hands down. Everybody's always smiling. Everybody's always laughing. We have a very small percentage that don't attend because they either are unable, out of town. We have a couple guys that live a ways out of town because we do some
uh,
remote work for a utility contractor. So we hire some out of town guys, so they aren't able to make it down. But I mean, just what it pays back in smiles and fun.
yeah.
I attribute it a lot to the positive attitude we have around here.
Tell me about the education part. So you mentioned that there's a budget in there for education. And before we pressed record, you were telling me that, teaching your people, investing in their knowledge is important to you. So how are some of the ways you're
Yes.
doing that?
Yes. So I mean, you're basically you're either growing or dying. You have to continue to
Mm-hmm.
level up your intellect, your knowledge. Otherwise, you're just going to be stagnant. There's no zero sum days. You're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. So our leadership team all has. I would have to pull up one of their contracts to see, but it's either 1,500 or 2,000. That is your guaranteed training credit per year. You come to me with a class you want to take, an education tidbit you want to do, need my sign off because I don't need you going and learning about something that has nothing to do with us. But 99.9% of the time, it's a yep, go learn, go and come back and teach us. Um, so a lot of them use that for like the SIMA ASM course. Pretty much my entire leadership team has done the ASM course. A couple have started to look into the CSP. One of my department managers is looking into like World of Concrete and some classes at World of Concrete because of that education credit.
I really like that. And, grow or die is actually one of our core values at Ramblin' Jackson.
Nice,
So it's branded, it's
nice.
part of what we do, and it's something I'm very passionate about is learning. And it's one of my reasons for hosting this podcast is I kind of get to talk to really smart people all the time. Right? It's like an
Yep.
excuse to like have a conversation with people that I end up learning a lot from running this show. One of the things I like doing is reading books with people or listening to
Mm,
audiobooks. So
yep.
like we have somebody who's in a new position and we're listening to The 1 Minute Manager. I don't know if you've ever read that
Okay.
book.
I haven't read it, but I've heard of it.
It's really short, it's really good. It's kind of the framework for our management style. And I love reading books with people and then having a conversation. I think that
Yep.
bringing it back to the team and talking about it is a key part. And that
Yes.
when people know that they need to do that, then they take it even more seriously and get more value. And I know as a public speaker, I learn a lot just by preparing to speak. Like when I'm like, oh, I
Yes.
need to I need to present this
Brush up a
idea to
little.
people. Like it helps me really own it and learn it. So this has all been really positive stuff, and there is part of business ownership and management and having a culture which is helping people leave the team when they're not the right fit. And this is something that I've developed as it's like a thick skin that you have to develop. It still feels awful when you have to ask people to leave your team. It's always my least favorite thing to do. Um, and I think if you don't do it, if you have people who are on the team that aren't pulling their weight or they're not the right fit, what I've seen is you risk losing other people. Like one time I had somebody and I kept them on too long. And when I let them go, somebody else on the team came and said, I was about ready to quit. And then I would have
Yeah.
lost two people, a great person and somebody that I needed to ask to leave. So tell me a little
That you
bit
just
about
let hang
that.
around.
So you said that you have a zero tolerance for cancer employees. Talk to me about that.
Yes.
How do you have a positive culture, right, where you're coaching people up? Because some people just need some coaching and training, and then some people also, at a certain point, are not a fit, and you need to get rid of
Yes.
them. And tell
Yes.
me about this.
I would say, and it's a process that's been kind of growing over time and continues to grow. But the point we're at now, really the attrition that we have are people, the cancers that needed to go. And most of them leave on their own once you've built the positive company culture. Occasionally they have to be promoted to other companies. It does not happen often for us because we figured out, how to hire right the first time. Um, but yeah, we definitely have a zero tolerance for cancers that started probably about 4 years ago. And when you get rid of some pretty key components you don't realize it looking at it at ground level, but when you get to take a bird's eye view a year later and look back and realize that, one to two people can really just make a 30-person team extremely toxic.
What are some of the ways that you're growing EPM? And you had some questions for me about growth that I wanted to just kind of talk through.
Yes. So, I mean, some of the ways we're growing, so we're not only in landscape and snow. A fair portion of our annual revenue comes from utility restoration, which is we basically chase a local power company putting pieces back together that they mess up. Um, but one of the in our maintenance department, one of the main things that we've looked at, because we've tapped our market pretty good for the market share that we want locally here for our ideal clients. We're looking to move into another market, another town within a short drive from us. So I guess one of my questions to you was, I know you guys push marketing from, the business to the end user customer quite a bit and have figured out a great way to do that. Have you worked with anyone or have any recommendations for marketing business to business for growth through acquisition?
Yeah, so you're right that a lot of our clients they have residential customers, so they're homeowners, people like that. A fair amount of our business are, multi-million dollar snow and landscape companies that typically have a residential division and a
Yep.
commercial division. So we do quite a bit of commercial marketing. One of the things that we are seeing that works is building out what we call specialty pages. So as an example, if you worked with industrial complexes, building out a page that's all about your portfolio of other industrial clients and tapping into the challenges that those clients have and how you solve them. And then, if possible, having photos and videos and testimonials from other industrial complexes. That then, one, people do Google that stuff. They Google, commercial snow removal, commercial landscaping, industrial snow removal, and so on. So you can get found from that. But then what it also does is, from an outbound marketing standpoint, is it gives you a tool. Let's pretend that I was doing sales for you. I would want to come up with a list, Nick, of the top 100 companies in that other city that you want to target.
Yep.
And I would create a multimedia multi-marketing campaign, meaning multimedia. I do a lot with print. I do print, I do toolboxes. I send out beef jerky. If you're listening and you want
Yes,
some
you do.
jerky, you had some. How was it?
It's great. It
Yeah.
is great.
So it's good stuff and it's a fun experience. And then when I talk to
Yep.
people, they have that reaction. If you want jerky, by the way, see our show notes, go to landscapersguide.com/toolbox and we'll ship you some jerky and a cool marketing guide to help you figure this stuff out.
You're
So
really going to want to do that. It's good.
thank you. It is good. But now if I have a list of the Dream 100, right? We can send them. I don't know if beef jerky fits with your brand, but you can find those people. You can connect with them on LinkedIn. You can cold call them. It's going to be multiple touches to get to the point of likely having them have a real conversation with you. And before that conversation and also after, you could send them that page. So, hey, Carl, before we meet, check out our portfolio of industrial clients. And you send that ahead of the meeting, and they're like, wow, they've worked with Amazon Fulfillment Center and blah, 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 blah. So that's one way I would do it. And I would expand that. So if you had, I don't know, HOAs, and I don't know, you don't work with HOAs, do you?
Not much, no.
Well,
No,
so
we've
if,
identified it's not a
yeah,
good fit for us.
what about hospitals?
Hospitals, there's actually only one locally to us right now, and they do their
Huh.
work in-house. So not currently. We would love to take one on though.
Okay, so we would this is how I would approach marketing in an outbound commercial environment is a combination of digital marketing, having the social proof on the website, video interviews with people, testimonials, photos, and then also like outbound marketing, LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn would be really good, because you can find, and you probably already know which properties you want to go and maintain. There's no one magic bullet in marketing, in my
No.
opinion. That's why I said multimedia,
Yep.
multi marketing, right? So multi step, multimedia marketing, where there's multiple steps of acquiring a customer. One of my tips for my staff is to be a good networker, meaning like when I'm at a trade show, I'm not just looking for me. I'm looking like, cool, I met Nick, and who is Nick looking to meet? And then I might go and introduce you to someone. And trying to be a helpful networker often then comes back to you. We've had people graduate from Ramblin' Jackson. Like, so I had
Hmm.
one person actually work with me for 7 years. And at the end of that, it was just time. Like, we had both kind
Yep.
of just, it wasn't bad. It was actually good.
Yep.
It was like complete. And that person went and started their own company and recently referred a vendor to me that has been a major asset. And so it's not like we burned the bridge or anything. If anything, we
Yeah.
actually had like a celebration of like, hey, this person's going on to do
Yeah.
this. So what's maybe one more nugget in the either recruiting or retention bucket? What's maybe one final thing that if you could get everyone to do one thing, what would it be?
Um, I'm gonna have to go with when you are recruiting, start with your existing team. Should you have a solid team? Don't if you have a sketchy team that you need to promote some to another company, start with the key members of that team that you trust. But start your recruitment internally. We really don't have to hire much from, Facebook ads, Indeed, any of that. We haven't hired anyone from Indeed in 4 years. Um, all of our key members and great team members now have come from referrals from within. So start with what you have and leverage those contacts because it's easy to interview somebody off the street and have them look great in an interview and they show up for their first day and they're great and the first month they're all right. Month two it starts to go downhill. They put on a good show. Now when you have a say mowing foreman that's had a best friend for many years that the best friend just all of a sudden needs a job and you happen to be looking for someone for a mow crew, for instance, when he refers his best friend, you know that you have a solid worker. He's not bringing him in for no reason. He trusts that person and trusts that person's integrity enough to bring them to his place of work and say, hey, this is a great guy. I vouch for him. He's going to treat us well.
Have you ever seen that work in the other way though, where you've had an employee referral who then doesn't work out, and then it kind of maybe that you need to get them off the boat, and then it
So
impacts the current employee. Has that ever happened?
we have had a couple instances where we
Uh,
have hired team members that have been referred to us by team members. I think it's happened twice that it was this is not a good fit. They need to go. But before myself or anybody on our leadership team was even able to identify it and say something, the team member that brought that person in is coming to us and saying, "Look, I'm sorry, this isn't what I know of them." And I think it's only two instances, and I think in both instances something was said to us before we even had to say anything.
Lots of great tips. Tell us a little bit about your coaching program and also how we can connect with you if we enjoyed today's conversation.
So the coaching program's pretty open ended. I mean, it could be a 1-2 time phone call just for some tidbits. I mean, I wouldn't lock anyone into coaching that just wants to ask questions and have a phone chat here and there. Now, if someone wanted some ongoing, you know, 1 year, 6 month accountability into some processes, then I'd be happy to help. Um, give me a ring. My website for that is nicklotzconsulting.com. You can reach me through there pretty easily. But it's very open-ended. No contract, no definite structure. You have to do this, you have to do that. It's more, what are your needs? How can I help you grow, and what can we learn together?
Well, very good. Well, we can keep going, but we've got to wrap up. Nick Klotz from EPM of Michigan, thanks so much for coming on the show, and we look forward to connecting you in the show notes and seeing you at other
Yeah,
shows.
appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for checking out today's podcast. Hopefully you got some ideas. I certainly did. Made me think, how can I take grow or die a step further at my company? It's already a core value. We're already living it. And so much is changing so fast in my industry and yours. And I totally agree with Nick that investing in your people, whatever way that they're going to learn, will really build a strong company. So thanks so much for checking this out. Again, if you haven't gotten a marketing toolbox, I'd love to send you one with some beef jerky. So claim yours at landscapersguide.com/toolbox. See our show notes for a link. My name's Jack Jostes, and I look forward to talking with you next week on the Landscaper's Guide. I like that. I'll take it. That's a wrap, Brendan.